In order to play a tragedy in 5 acts, you'll need a notebook, tokens, dice, writing utensils, and 5 players who are ready to get Shakespearean. We start off with the notebook for scorekeeping and note-taking, a cast list which keeps track of both primary and secondary characters, and a handful of dice. We've got 6-siders here, but what type of die doesn't actually matter. The first step in setting up a tragedy in 5 acts is to pick the setting. Now, this can happen at any time or any place. Some people might want to go traditional, for instance, Elsinore Castle, but if that's not your taste, you could go with future underwater Venice. All right, then. So, the next thing to do is to set the roles. There are 5 roles: daughter, lover, foil, parent, and authority. Now, the relationships between these roles and how they play out in the game, that's up to the players to decide. Next, each player gets piles of 10 tokens. In this case, we're using color-coded dice mostly because we don't have all of those colors of tokens yet, but as you can see, we will have them. These are examples of the tokens that you'll be getting through the Kickstarter, along with the muslin bag that our lovely foil is modeling for us there. The final part of setup is to assign fatal flaws. Fatal flaws are drawn randomly. There are 5 of them. There's ambitious, arrogant, fortune's fool, jealous, and overly trusting. Each player draws their fatal flaw randomly. We recommend a hat, and then keeps it secret until they choose to reveal it later in the game. As the name suggests, tragedy consists of 5 acts of 3 scenes each. Prior to each scene, there's an auction to determine the focus of the next scene. This is where the tokens come in, but we'll go through the details in a moment. Bidding pools refresh at the end of each act. Winning bids get to choose the scene's focus and get tragedy points to add to their total score. Whichever player has the most tragedy points following the bidding for Act 5, Scene 3 will have their character featured prominently in that final scene and get naming rights for the play. Now, you can't have a play without a director. In Tragedy in 5 Acts, directing duties rotate between players according to their role. Directors handle a number of narrative tasks in the game, including when to start and end scenes, but the most important thing for our purposes today is that the director begins the bidding for their act. We'll use this rose to denote the director role. Now I'll show you how scene auctions work. In a scene auction, there are 2 stages, bidding and support. In the bidding stage, suggestions are made for the narrative focus of the next scene. In order to put in an idea, you make a bid of 1 token. The bidding stage goes around the table once in order, letting everyone throw their idea out there. Alright, so let's review what's happening here. In this auction, the daughter, foil, parent, and authority all placed initial bids. Each bid would have been accompanied by an idea of what should go on in the scene, possibly with suggestions of who should be in the scene or something that they want to see accomplished. For example, the daughter might suggest that the scene take place at a funeral. The foil might suggest a duel. The parent might suggest escaping a flood, while the authority could suggest a stranger pulled in from the airlock and in custody. The second stage of a scene auction is support. In the support stage, the players decide whose ideas they like best, whether their own or someone else's. Everyone can use their dice to back the existing suggestions. This stage continues until no one is willing to put out any more dice. The winning idea must have at least 1 more die than any others. Support rounds have no set order. Anyone can act at any time. In this round, we start off with the daughter putting dice behind her own idea, the lover supporting the foil in his duel, the parent doubling down on flooding, but also adding a die to the authority's idea of a stranger from the sea, while the authority makes a substantial addition to his own pool. The tide seems to be turning. From there, we see the foil adding a couple more tokens to boost his bid, spurring the daughter to abandon her efforts and throw in with the authority. At this point, the auction stops because nobody's willing to bid anymore. Tough luck, foil. The authority wins! Finally, we tally tragedy points. The winner gets 1 tragedy point for each token won, which equates to all the tokens involved in the auction. He then gets to roll dice for each token he personally bid, as well as 1 for each token in the losing bids. For each die that comes up odd, he wins an extra tragedy point. Supporters of winning bids get to roll a number of dice equal to the tokens they used for support. Odds win tragedy points for them as well. This covers the basic mechanic for the game. There are some aspects we haven't touched on in this video, such as abdication or the use of fatal flaws in the game. These are included in the playtest document. If you'd like a copy, email us at playattentiongames@gmail.com and we'd be happy to send a copy your way. If you have more questions, just let us know. Thanks again for supporting our company and our Kickstarter, and break a leg.